Welcome, my name is Brandon. Please join me on this tour of the Westgate Mall in Brainerd and Baxter, Minnesota. Yes, Westgate is located across town lines. Let's take a peek at a map. Here we have Brainerd highlighted, and as we zoom into the mall, we can see the town line going right through the mall. If we look at the different tenants, we see a Brainerd address, Baxter, Brainerd, and Baxter again. Westgate is not Brainerd's first mall. The East Brainerd Mall opened back in 1966, but was demalled around the year 2000. I have not filmed the inside, but from what I have read, about all that remains is a hallway. I will have to find an excuse to drive 2 hours again to check it out. I also have the fear that the inner area is only open on weekdays, so I may need to find a lazy Friday to return and check it out. Brainerd is one of those towns I had heard people talk about a lot growing up, but never visited until my 30s. This area of the state is cabin country. In fact, I first drove past Westgate when my friends and I were staying at a cabin in nearby Hillman. When I finally visited Westgate on a Friday in May 2022, the main road was as busy as the Twin Cities during rush hour due to all the people getting a head start on the first nice weekend of the year after an awful long winter. Brainerd is also known for its summer classical music program called the Lakes Area Music Festival, where many performers travel to central Minnesota to put on orchestra and opera performances. I shot a second round of Westgate footage in July before meeting up with a friend who had invited me to see Strauss's Ariadne auf Naxos. The singers put on great performances, but being a Strauss opera, the ending was overly long. Look at me talking about opera. I might have more subscribers if I made old pop culture references instead, but I think you would see right through me if I pretended to be someone who I am not. Brainerd has been a decent-sized town for nearly a century. The population was already around 10,000 residents in the 1930s, and is close to 14,000 today. Neighboring Baxter, however, had a population of a mere 169 residents in 1930, and has grown considerably to 1,000 in the 1960s and nearly 9,000 residents today. The history of Westgate begins in November 1979, when Kmart opened in Baxter, Minnesota. A few years later, Broadview Federal began development on the Westgate Mall. The mall opened in 1985, attached to the east of the Kmart. The anchor had its own entrance into the mall. As Kmart was built right on the border of Baxter, building the mall to the east meant it had to be built into neighboring Brainerd. Westgate's other original anchor was Herberger's, located at the far east end of the mall. Are you a resident of the Brainerd area? Was there a reason to build the mall across two towns? If the Kmart had been built facing it a different direction, would Westgate Mall have been built entirely in Baxter? Sometime over the next decade, the mall was sold to developers Diversified Realty. The first big change to Westgate took place in the late 1990s. Customers complained about the size of the Herbergers, so the store expanded into the mall, increasing its footprint by 12,000 square feet to a total of 77,000 square feet. Westgate chugged along for almost 2 decades until things started going downhill. Kmart closed its doors at the end of 2004. At the time, the mall was at 96% occupancy. Steve & Barry's moved into the space, but then closed in 2008. A map from November 2010 showed 13 empty tenants, totaling nearly 40% vacancy by square footage. That same year, Jo-Ann Fabrics moved from their original location to a bigger space at the front of the mall, where they are located today. Luckily, this is about the time things started to change for the better. New Jersey-based Lexington Realty International purchased Westgate in late 2011. They were able to attract 2 large tenants. In the second quarter of 2012, Big Lots and Dunham Sports moved into the former Steve & Barry's anchor, with Dunham's having internal mall access. Oh, it's such a lovely day. Let's take a break from history and go outside and just enjoy the warmth of summer. In 2018, all Herberg's locations closed when the parent company, Bon-Ton, declared bankruptcy, leaving behind a large anchor in Westgate. At the end of the year, however, an article in the Brainerd Dispatch shared the good news that Planet Fitness would be moving into the former Herberger space. The old anchor was still half empty, though. A year later, the Brainerd Dispatch mentioned more good news. Ashley Furniture would move into the remaining half of the old Herbergers. In 2020, Big Lots closed, but Harbor Freight Tools moved in not long after its departure. Someday I hope to try Rafferty's Pizza. On my first visit, I had to ditch my mall adventure early to drive 2 hours home to solve a client issue. I forgot to tell them I took a vacation day. Whoops. The second time, I had to rush to the opera performance. I've heard good things about Rafferty's Pizza, and I love old 80s pizza places with wooden paneling. While I will never turn down a New York slice, there is something just wonderful about eating the crispy edges of a thin round pizza cut into squares. For other Minnesotans, do you have a favorite pizza joint that serves this style? If it's near a mall, I'll add it to my list. I love this 1980s retro mall, and despite a few empty tenants, it seems to be doing all right, with a combination of national chains and mom-and-pop shops. In fact, Westgate has had a number of local shops since around the time it opened. And while a good chunk of this video was filmed on a quiet Sunday, quite a few people started trickling in on a Friday afternoon to hang out during my first visit. If you go to the mall's Facebook page, you'll see the mall host quite a few events in the hallways and empty tenants, such as craft and bake sales, car shows, and chili cook-offs. hope you enjoyed this tour of Westgate Mall in Brainerd and Baxter, Minnesota. If you would like to see more of the mall's exterior, stay for the ending. As of the time of this video's release in October 2022, Google Maps still shows the mall with the old Herbergers. I wanted to capture how it looked in 2022. Thank you again for joining me on this video. I hope you have a great day. Take care.